So, good afternoon, all of you. We will start with now problems and what are the different things related to the reinforcement concrete uh, rectangular beam. So, most of the time, we can see that there are two types of problems. So, one type of problem consisting of the design type, while the other one it is of the analysis type. And if you just look at the design type, so the designer has to determine the dimensions. So there are the different dimensions: width, then effective depth, total depth, and then AST. Other detailing of the reinforcement as well, and then grade of the concrete and steel from the design moment of the beam. So this was in the case of the design type of problem. If you are going to solve the design type of problem, in that case, so how to consider a particularly beam and how to consider this, uh, how should we take the width, how should we take the depth, or what should be the reinforcement, how can we just consider the reinforcement, then what kind of detailing is to be there. But in case of the analysis type of the problem, so all the above data will be known and the designer has to find out the moment of resistance. So second type of problem, so if you know all the data, so this beam, how much this moment of resistance can be considered. So that is called the analysis. Then both the type of the problem are taken up for the illustration. We will see it. So generally, if you just look at, you will find that yes, this is the width. Then you got here effective depth. Effective depth is, suppose this is the reinforcement. You got here reinforcement AST, that is the area of the steel. You got here capital D from top fiber to bottom fiber, and then hanger bar. Hanger bar is something that anyhow we have to provide some reinforcement in the compression zone, and we have to again provide the stirrups as well. Stirrups, as you know, that who is going to join like this. So this is called the stirrups, and you will have just like this hooks will be there. So area of the steel, and you got here hangers bar, and then you got here effective depth. So let us go for the design type of the problem. So design type of the problem, so if you just look at here, a designer has to make preliminary plan layout, including location of the beam, its span and spacing. So estimate the imposed and other loads from the given functional requirement of the structure. So it is not something that you will get, okay, from the customer, that you will get, sir, this is a beam and I want the reinforcement kind of thing. It's not like that. So basically you will get a plan. You will get a 2D plan. You know that most of the time, basically the customers, they usually go for the some basic plan. There it can be 2D plan, and then you will get the 3D elevation and likewise. So architect or some those who know that 3D software, so in that case they will be able to draw it, and then from there you have to define as a structural designer or as a designer. You will get that once you get a plan here, suppose you got your plan, and in this plan there is, suppose this is a certain room. You got your room here, then you got your room something, and this is kind of, this is just rough plan. Now here what you have to do, you have to simply just check, this is going to, this is what you will get. This is room 1, this is room 2, let's say this is room 1, so this is room 2, this is room 3, this is room 4, and say this is room 5, and you may have this, say WC here, or say some storeroom here. Suppose you got a plan from here, but you do not know where is your column, you do not know where is your beam. This is how the particular situation is there. You do not know where is the column or where is the beam. Being a structural designer, you have to predefine this thing as well. You have to even just check, okay, no column, where should be the column? Should I put it here? Shall I put here? And if the columns are there, then yes, definitely the columns will have certain beams also. The next column, where would that be? So here or somewhere else. So that column location is also very important, because on that column location itself, that beam positions will be there. So that's the reason the designer has to make the preliminary plan layout, including the location of the beam, its span, spacing. Then you have to estimate the imposed and other loads. So you have to just check whether, suppose if you are going to consider a particularly, say, ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor, and likewise, where exactly that plan is. Is it on first floor or is it on roof? Then what is going to be there? Is this a complex or is this a residential building? What is it? Because depending on that, your the load will be changed. You have seen in earlier lectures, you have seen that yes, the dead load or live load changes for commercial buildings or for the residential building, and accordingly you have to just consider the load. If you the load varies, then definitely the dimensions will get changed for the beam, column, and similar to that, you have to place the reinforcement as well. So dead loads of the beam are estimated assuming the dimensions B and E initially. So dead load can be considered if you just take the load and just take the preliminary dimensions. And then this is the calculation of bending moment. You have to do the calculation of bending moment, shear force, and axial thrust based on the load. So, so the problem is such that the designer has to start with some initial dimensions, and then he had to subsequently revise them also if needed. You cannot say, or it is not always that okay, if you're considered a particularly location of the column, as we have seen here, that yes, there are the location of this column. This is the column 1, this is column 2. But as customer do not want the column at this position, he do not want at this position. He wants somewhere here only. Just you want to remove it. So in that case, what you have to do, your span will get changed. So span will get changed, loading will get changed, and accordingly you have to redefine it, redesign it. So that's the reason this happens as well. So selection of width of the beam. So normally width of the beam is governed by how you can consider that this is a rectangular beam. This is a rectangular beam, and now what you have to do, you have to just know how should I take the width of the beam. How should this width of the beam should be? So it depends upon proper housing of the reinforcing bar, that how much S is needed, and accordingly you can revise width if you're considered it. Then second part, architectural considerations as well, because most of the time architect will decide okay that this should be the location, and accordingly you have to just change your width or your preliminary dimension. So it is desirable that the width of the beam should be less than or equal to width of its supporting structure, like column width or width of the wall, etc. What we have said, that the width of the beam should be less than or equal to width of its supporting structure. So you may have the column, you have to just check that what is the column width. Then accordingly you have to just check that okay, suppose the column width is in between 200 mm or 250 mm to 450 mm. So accordingly you can just check or revise. So practical aspects should also be kept in mind. It has been found that most of the requirements are satisfied with B as 150 mm, somewhere 200 mm, somewhere 230 mm, 250 mm, or 300 mm. So most of the time you can see, or even this is very common, 230 mm or 300 mm. This is very common. So again, width to overall depth ratio is normally kept between 0.5 to 0.67. So suppose this is your width, and to overall depth, this is your capital D. So B by D should be in the range of 0.5 to 0.67. 0.5 to 0.67. So you have to, so if you just consider width of the beam as say 230 mm, so you can easily calculate overall depth as well. So to calculate overall depth, if you just consider any kind of ratio in between that, 0.5 or 0.6, 0.65, 0.55. So likewise, if you are going to consider, then you can easily calculate. Yes. First of all, what you have to do, you have to assume it. You have to assume width. And then once you assume the width, in that case, you have to just consider that how should I take or how should I consider the ratio of the width to the capital D overall depth. So it is in between 0.5 to 0.67. So accordingly, you can easily calculate capital D. So that would be your preliminary dimension. You cannot say that, okay, we have assumed this dimension that, okay, width should be 230 mm and then capital D should be, suppose if it is 0.5, we'll say, so let us say around 0.5 or 450 to 500 would be the capital D. And now what we have to do, this would be the final. No, this you cannot say that this would be the final because you do not know its loads and you do not know, or you are not yet calculated the load. So now selection of depth of the beam, small d and capital D. So you know that small d is the effective depth, capital D is the overall depth. We have seen that, yes. Where is that? This is the small d and this is your capital D. This is the part. This is the small d, this is your capital D. So this part we have already considered, but yes, effective depth has the major role to play in satisfying the strength requirement of bending moment and shear force. So deflection of the beam also. So strength requirement of bending moment as well as the shear force and the deflection of the beam. These are the two major criteria which basically you'll have to just consider while considering this small d or capital D. So initial effective depth of the beam, however, is assumed to satisfy the deflection requirement depending on the span and the type of the reinforcement. So this was in that clause 23.2.1. Now just give me a minute. I'll just open this IS 456. Even if you have IS 456, yes, you should open that and go to this clause. What does that say? I'll just share IS 456 clause number 23.2.1. Those, though I have told you earlier, but yes, with this IS 4 criteria, we'll be able to see in detail. Yes. So this is how IS 456 is there. If you have IS 456 available, go to the page number 37. And you have this clause 23.2.1. The vertical deflection limit may generally be assumed to be satisfied provided that the span to depth ratio are not greater than the values obtained as below. So what it is mentioned here, it is mentioned that up to the span of 10 meter, then basic values of span to effective depth, what we are considering the span to effective depth ratio for span up to 10 meter is for cantilever 7, simply supported 20, and then continuous 26. So if basic values of span to effective depth ratio, it is this one. But what if the span is more than 10 meter? Let us have the span is of 10.5 meters. So what should I do? So for that, what does this IS code say? For span about 10 meter, the values in A may be multiplied by 10 by span in meters. So suppose if you have 10.5 or say 11, just you have to multiply by the factor 10 divided by 11, except for the cantilever, in which case the deflection calculation should be made. So just for simply supported and continuous, this is okay. And Then depending on this area and the stress of the steel for tension reinforcement, the value in A or B shall be modified by multiplying with the modification factor. Then, depending on the area of the compression reinforcement, the value of span to effective depth ratio further be modified by multiplying with the modification factor as per figure number 5. So, no, figure number 4 and figure number 5 just here. On the next page, number 38, you can see that here this is the modification factor for tension reinforcement, and here you can see that yes, this is a modification factor. This is a percentage of tension reinforcement. Then you have this Fs. So based on what kind of percentage of tension reinforcement you are going to provide, let us say you are going to provide 1.2, and you got here Fs equals to 240. So you have this one. So if you just cross it, so you'll get around 0.9 or 1.0 around. And accordingly, you have to consider that this would be the modification factor. And based on this modification factor, what you have to do? You have to just simply, depending on the area and the stress of the tension reinforcement, the value of A and B shall be modified by multiplying with the modification factor. So you have to multiply with the modification factor. So we'll go back to again our slide. So this is, just remember, yes, you have seen the clause 23.2.1, page number 37 and 38. So it is same. For span about 10 meter, you have to consider all those things. Figure 4 and 5 on page number 37, 138. Then total depth can be determined by adding 40 to 80 mm to the effective depth. So this is considered as cover. So this is considered as cover. What is meant by cover? Cover is something. So suppose you got your beam. You got your beam. You got your reinforcement. And yes, let us have that. Okay, you draw center line to the reinforcement. And here, this is considered as a cover that you have to add. How much cover you can take? 40 mm to 80 mm. And then remaining would be your, this is considered as effective depth. Then you got your D dash, and if you add this, you will get capital D. Now selection. So okay, so what we have done till now, you have to assume width, you have to consider here effective depth ratio L by D and D ratio, and then you have to now go ahead with the selection of amount of steel reinforcement. Selection of amount of steel reinforcement, that is ASC. So what is given here? That yes, minimum reinforcement, that is AS, is provided for creep, shrinkage, thermal, and other environmental requirement irrespective of the strength requirement. So what IS could say, even it is not required, even that particularly loading is not the factor, but still you have to provide the reinforcement that is called as minimum reinforcement. Why you have to provide the minimum reinforcement? Because sometimes because of the loading, the creep will occur, shrinkage, cracks will develop, thermal and other environmental factors will affect that particularly structural member. And that is the reason you have to always provide at least minimum AST. Though your strength requirement is already satisfied. So what is the minimum AST? So minimum AST is something provided in a beam depends on the Fy of steel, where it is coming from. So it is coming from clause number 26.5.1.1a. So I'll just show you 26.5.1.1a. Okay, so you got here beam and you got here tension reinforcement. Beams and tension reinforcement, minimum reinforcement criteria. This is 26.5.1.1. Minimum area of tension reinforcement shall be not less than. Now the next part is on. If you are on page number 46, then go to page number 47. You got here. So it is given by the following formula, that is AS by BD equals to 0.85 upon Fy. So your AS is this minimum area of tension reinforcement. You got your width of the beam, you got your effective depth, and then you got your characteristic strength of the reinforcement. What kind of or what is your grade of steel? Is whether it is 250 Newton per mm square, whether it is 415 Newton per mm square, or whether it is 500 Newton per mm square. So depend upon that, your minimum area of steel will vary. Also, there is, you can see, just like the minimum reinforcement, there is a maximum reinforcement criteria as well. You cannot provide more than this reinforcement. You have to just keep this in mind that, okay, if you have the particularly that criteria, strength criteria, but even though you cannot provide more than this reinforcement, what is that? Maximum area of tension reinforcement shall not exceed 0.04 times B into D, or you can say 4%. Maximum you can provide 4% of the total area or the gross area. 4% of the total area, or even one, we can say gross area, because we are calculating the area of the rectangular beam, basically width and the capital D. Most of the time we usually provide the rectangular beams, but yes, even square beams are same. So that's the minimum reinforcement criteria. Even though it is not needed, you have to provide this minimum reinforcement. And even though your strength requirement is higher, you cannot provide more than this maximum reinforcement as well. So both the cases, you have to just check. You cannot provide more reinforcement. You cannot provide lesser than the minimum reinforcement. All those two, you have to just check always. So we'll just again go back to our slide. Yes. So that's how you got here minimum reinforcement. Also, you got here maximum reinforcement. Now, besides satisfying the minimum and maximum reinforcement criteria, okay, if you are even satisfied your minimum criteria, minimum reinforcement criteria, as well as the maximum reinforcement factor, both you are satisfied. Now what? Still, the amount of reinforcement for the singly reinforced beam should normally be 75 to 80% of percentage of steel PT limited. So this will ensure that the strain in the steel will be more than this value 0.87 Fy by ES plus 0.002, as the design stress in the steel will be 0.87 Fy. Moreover, in many cases, the depth required for the deflection becomes more than limiting depth required to resist MU limit. Thus, it is almost obligatory to provide more depth. So usually, what happens that sometimes you have to go ahead with the limiting depth criteria. So, but for the deflection point of view, if you just provide some more depth, that would be okay. Because even that would satisfy the amount of steel, whatever the needed. So such beams are designed as under reinforced. Suppose if you are providing a reinforcement and which is less than that required for MU limiting, then we will say that okay, our beam is under reinforced. We have seen what is meant by under reinforced. Okay, now the next parameter, how we can select the diameter. There are many reinforcement steel bars are available. So what are the different sizes available and how to select such things? So for that, in the market, you can see that the diameter of this reinforcement starts with 6 mm, and that may ranges up to 40 mm and more than that, but normally you can see in the building up to 40 mm maximum. Some of these bars, there are certain bars that you will see that whatever the demand is in the market, and according to that demand, thus you can see that okay, 12 mm, 16 mm, 20 mm, you will see find more, or even 8 mm, 10 mm. Sometimes you will see not others. So some of these bars are less available. The selection of the diameter of bar depends on its availability as well. So you have to just check what kind of whatever the diameter of the bars you are going to provide in the say beam, column, or footing, but you should know that whether it is available or not in the market. So normally the diameter of the main tensile bar are chosen from 12 mm, 16 mm, 20 mm, 22, 25, and 32 maximum. So you got it. You cannot say so. Mostly you can see that it is an even number, and just except this 25. So that's how these are actually the that particularly the parameter from the steel factory where exactly this reinforcement manufactured, and they got certain norms, and with the help of those norms, basically this kind of diameter only available. You cannot say that okay, so I like the number, my roll number is 21 or my roll number is 31, so I want my that particularly 21 mm diameter, or my roll number is 31, so I want 31 mm diameter. That is not available. So even though you got your, so my, someone will say, so my birth date is on 19th of this, say any month, or 19th of the September. So if I get that particularly diameter in my house, that would be very much lucky for me. So that is not possible. So it depends upon, even we have enlisted this bar diameter, even you have to just check are they available or not. But most of the time this will be available, or they will say no problem sir, we will make it available within 1 or 2 days because they are already manufactured. Now selection of grade of concrete. So how to select the grade of the grade of the concrete? So table number 5, we already seen this one, but let us go ahead with the table number 5. So just a minute, I'll just share the screen. In the last lecture itself we have seen, but yes, just you can look at this. You are going to provide RCC. So for RCC, what is the minimum grade? Yes, M20 is your minimum grade of the concrete, and this is what you have to provide. We have seen, yes, this is the table number 5, where it is on. It is on page number 20, and on the page number 20, you can see, yes, minimum cement content, maximum water cement ratio, and minimum grade of the concrete. That table is available. Then similar to that, you have to also check selection of grade of the steel. That normally Fe250 for, say if you are going to provide stirrups, then you can provide it. Most of the time 6 mm or 8 mm stirrups are provided, and those uh, are provided with this 250, but even they are outdated right now. You will get it in the 415. All the reinforcement or that particularly customers are preferring, but you can still see that many of the customers are still using Fe250, or the designers are still using Fe250. So mild steel Fe250 is more ductile and is preferred for structures in earthquake zone, or where there are possibility of vibration, impact, blast, etc. So if you are in the earthquake prone area, in that case, or earthquake zone area, so you might see on the news most of the time that okay, this zone is earthquake zone, or most of the time you see the northeast, you will see that there are the problem related to it. Okay, so here we will stop, and these are the general criteria. Now in the next lecture, we will actually solve a problem, right? So we will stop here. Thank you so much. Do mark your attendance through Google Classroom.